The Chicago Bulls added a new piece to their roster for the 2024-25 season via the NBA draft. The Chicago Cubs finally end their losing streak by defeating the San Francisco Giants in extra innings, while the White Sox get a rare 1-0 victory over the Atlanta Braves. The first time they've done that in the last 5 years. Shocking. A former Chicago Blackhawk finally gets the call to the Hockey Hall of Fame. We'll discuss the Bears with a very special guest, and we'll have to review that hockey Stanley Cup final Game 7. Did Connor McDavid do something wrong, i.e., hockey protocol? Did he break an unwritten rule? We'll discuss that and a whole lot more as the Friday edition of Second City Sports starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Friday edition of Second City Sports, the last one for the month of June. We're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Mr. Key McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG as SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Key McGee on the Twitter, X, and Key McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza, we call it Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakino will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I give Lakina full power to give your full spiel and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have Roku television, just tap on that Sports World and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, or your Android, just head up to Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
It will be providing you with some of the best here on Second City Sports in this last Friday in June, of course. We got our girl Taylor Dahl from Helmets and Heels from 1010 XL in Jacksonville. She'll preview the Bears and the rest of the NFL as, just about 3 weeks before training camp, 4 weeks before training camp starts. Of course, the Panthers win their first Stanley Cup. The Blackhawks make a couple of trades as they gear up for the draft. Connor Bedard wins big, no surprise. And some other sports media news and a whole lot more. But first, Sid, we'll do what we always do here. We'll talk some baseball first. Of course, the Cubs are getting up for a big series starting today against the Brewers, the NL Central League Brewers, I should say. Now, unfortunately, they did salvage one game against the Bay Area, let's be honest, but they should have at least split the series. But again, I guess, take it or leave it, I guess, as far as the Cubs are concerned. They did win 5-3, in 10 innings. And again, there was your typical Cubs game. They go up early, but then, of course, the Giants came back. Then, to the credit of the bullpen, they were able to kind of overcome that. And it was Ian Happ's 2-run home run in the extra session that helped the Cubs salvage won the game in that Bay Area series. Let's be honest, if they could have, when before we started, they should at least split the series and now won 3 out of 4 with that Monday game. But I digress. So, but now they're gearing up for a game against the Brewers. Honestly, I know a sweep, but they really got to win at least 2 out of 3 to kind of at least stay within striking distance of NL Central.
We'll start off with the San Francisco series first. You can understand, not to give the Cubs a pass, but you can understand from the San Francisco Giants perspective, Monday was the first game they played since the passing of Willie Mays, and there was a lot of emotion in that building, and and the Giants played their hearts out in that comeback victory. Wednesday's game, the Cubs should have won. Justin Steele, we talked about Lakina, he's been pitches you know what off for the last 8, 9, 10 starts, and he deserved a better fate than that. And the bullpen deserved a big fat L for that one. That was just inexcusable. Thursday, Shota Imanaga, he didn't have the greatest game on paper, but his performance was much better than 1 week ago today against the Mets, where he got blasted in the first 2 innings against the New York Mets. Ian Happ, who's been on fire the last couple weeks, he's cooled off lately, but it looks like his bat is starting to come around. I said that Nico Horner does not need to be in the leadoff position, but he responded with the 3-for-5 day at the plate yesterday, so a good on him. But Lakina, here's the thing. You know who really had a bad week? Third base coach Willie Harris of the Cubs. Wednesday, Christopher Morel gets picked off of first base.
Yeah.
That is inexcusable. And Ian Happ, with 2 outs, if I have the situation correctly, he gets picked off of third base. That is inexcusable. And then yesterday, I forgot who hit the ball in the outfield, but it all of a sudden found a landing spot in left center field. Willie Harris, way out of his coaching box, decides to send Ian Happ again to home plate, and he was out by almost a mile. As we talked about for the last couple of weeks on the show, Lakina, the Cubs have to be proactive because they don't have a big name in their lineup as far as them driving in runs consistently or for power. You have to be smart. You have to be selective of when to be aggressive with hidden runs, stolen bases, etc., etc. Those last 2 instances over the last 2 days proves that the Cubs are forcing the issue. It didn't backfire on them yesterday, but they had a big fat L as far as being smart on being aggressive on Wednesday.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Lakeem McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Now, again, all that stuff, I think, yeah, especially with the Wednesday game, they probably should have won that game. They should have been able to hang on to have won that game. So, like I said, at least they could have split the series. But yeah, Monday, yeah, you can kind of let that slide because there was a lot of emotion there. And, San Francisco, they all wore Willie Mays' jersey number. So, okay, yeah, I'll let, okay, yeah, Cubs fans, if they have calmed down, they'll let them slide on that. But in this instance, we're okay. Like those, it's like you talked about. Yeah, Willie Harris. I think you want to kind of burn this series, so hopefully, they can kind of, put that aside because you're going to be facing a Brewers team that's won 4 in a row. We'll talk about that after the break. Now the good news is you do get Jameson Taillon tonight in that game. We get Justin Steele tomorrow against Tobias Myers. That should be an interesting matchup. And then of course, now we got Kyle Hendricks. He loves playing the Brewers. He actually does pretty well against the Brewers. So we'll see what happens. So you do get 3. Hendricks has actually been pretty solid in his last couple of outings. So that should definitely help his confidence. So like I said, you got to win at least 2 out of 3 in order to kind of like get back into it. Now, again, if you lose 2 out of 3, you God forbid get swept. I mean, I think it definitely is panic time. But for right now, I think, look, just win 2 out of 3, take it 1 game at a time. Everyone needs to be on the same page. I know, Assad, I think it's going to be on the IL. So the pitching still, again, has been a bit of an issue here. They've been a little bit banged up. But again, the bats gotta be good. And, they have to, Bellinger's got to, wake up. Horner's got to wake up. Swanson has to wake up now. Swanson said, "Look, June's almost over with, so you can't really get away with the fact that hey, we're in June, so you got to win at least 2 out of 3 against the Brewers, or try to get back in that division."
Let's not forget Mark Leiter Jr., who's anything close to consistent out of that bullpen. He's also on the IL right now. As you said, Lakina, as we talked about in the beginning of this month, the Cubs have played 27 24 of their 27 games was against teams below 500. I believe they're one game or at 500 right now during this current stretch. And we also said too that you cannot use that as early tag anymore. It's that statement should not come out of anybody's mouth. Okay, it'll be July on Monday and Tuesday, I believe. Monday will be July 1st. So yeah, Monday. So it's go time for the Cubs. As you mentioned, you had to take the bull by the horns. I want to ask you, Lakina, and the rest of you guys out there in our viewing and listening audience. You can respond on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Should the Cubs get swept this weekend, is the division title hopes over for the Cubs, and should they sell? I'll repeat again. If the Cubs should get swept this weekend by the Milwaukee Brewers, is the division title hopes for the Cubs over, and does this make them get a step closer to selling the team, like our good friend Mark Harmon from CHGO suggested last week?
I mean, yeah, I mean, like, hopefully this will get them to kind of like, wake up and sort of say, hey, you know what? Look, we're kind of getting down to the wire here, near to the trade deadline. So I don't want to say that if they get swept or if they lose 2 out of 3 against the Brewers, you want to say, hey, start, doing a fire sale like some people are suggesting. I don't want to do that just yet, but, by mid-June, by mid-July, I should say, if that's still the case, I think you may start seeing some guys going bye-bye. But at the same time, though, you're not going to get – look, the marquee ratings have not been very good because the Cubs haven't been very good. Same thing with I'm sure the scores, listenership ratings haven't been very good because the Cubs have been pretty bad. So if you do a fire sale, you let the kids play, as they say. You're not going to be able to get folks to kind of tune in, and that means not a lot of money for the Cubs to spend. So I think, look, you had Carl Edwards Jr. He's out on the market right now. He decided not to stay down there because you would have bring him up. I don't know what's going on in that situation, but look, you could have gotten the guy there that kind of could have helped you out and won a couple of those games in the bullpen. But I digress. So there's a lot of self-inflicted wounds here for the Cubs, and I think that hopefully you won't have to do that, but let's hope it doesn't get to that. So I would say, look, take it one game at a time. Look, try to win 2 out of 3 against the Brewers. A sweep would be even better. That way you can get back into it.
Like I said before, 2 out of 3 is a must for this Cubs team because, like you said, time is of the essence right now. If they happen to get swept, I'll say it right here, and this is my official prediction. If the Cubs should get swept this weekend, your hopes for a division title is over. Now, mathematically, you're still in the wild card hunt because there's a bunch of teams that are under 500, just like you, buying for those 3 wild card spots. But if the Cubs should get swept this weekend, you can forget about the division. Your hope is for the wild card, and the way that race is going right now, you have to make almost a near miracle run just to get into the playoffs via the wild card.
Just to put a capper on this, I think everybody has to look. It's all about buckling down and such. So let's not enough half-assing around and kind of get back into it because you're playing again. You're playing the leaders, so hopefully you can get it going. I know they've won 4 in a row. The Brewers have, but yeah, you can. You're kind of you got to wonder. I don't think they're gonna run away with it. So everyone's gonna be kind of right there. So I would say, look, get your butts together, get it going, and hopefully you can. Win 2 out of 3 this series coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be the return number 2 for Craig Counsell to Milwaukee, the former Brewers manager. So pressure is going to be on him first, and it's going to trickle down to the rest of the players. We'll see how this group can handle the pressure.
All right, so the Sox get a rare 1-0 game. I guess the Braves finished, picking up that game from a couple months ago. Also, to the rest of the baseball, are the Yankees frauds, as some people are saying? Lakina McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. More Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool. These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Friday Fun edition, the last one for the month of June. We're live in Living Colorado here on Sports Zone Chicago. If you want to follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG, you can do so at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
And you follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keenan's going in the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left of this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we dive into the rest of MLB and talk White Sox as well, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Speaking of the White Sox, this is a makeup game from early April. A Luis Robert Jr. Home run in the bottom of the second, bottom of first, I should say, was all the Sox needed as they beat the Braves 1-0, and I guess it means they win the season series. I guess because they had the series in April before the rain out. But I mean, Chris Sale, former White Sox, had 11 strikeouts. Of course, that lone earned run was for courtesy of Mr. Robert Jr. Jerry Schuster had 2 strikeouts, only gave up 1 hit. So it was kind of a boring game and very mundane. And I don't want to say it, but it looks like maybe, I guess the Sox might have caught the Braves kind of sleepwalking. So you can kind of tell that a lot of them probably didn't really feel like playing. So I guess the Sox kind of caught them at the right time. But look, they got a rare 1-0 win. They lost some of those this year. So I guess you'll take it.
Well, the Braves played the doubleheader on Wednesday in St. Louis, so if that had anything to do with it, like you said, it showed yesterday. Pretty decent crowd out there yesterday too for the White Sox and Braves contest. We'll get into the crowds for this weekend and what happened on Wednesday just a moment as far as the crowd control is concerned. But to the actual game, Lakina, Chris Sale made them look like fools. So what White Sox special hasn't tried to make this terrible White Sox lineup look like fools this year, right? But The lack of offense for the White Sox, they got away with it yesterday, courtesy of, you mentioned La Pantera, Luis Robert Jr. But Lakina, I want to discuss with you the Dodgers series. Now, the Dodgers, we all know that one of the best teams in baseball. No, they don't have Mookie Betts Jr. No, they don't have Clayton Kershaw. But Shohei Ohtani does it again to the Sox with 2 home runs in this series. In the Dodgers bullpen, as we talked about throughout various points of the season that I have concerns about. Well, they did the job in this series, at least the first 2 games. 11 innings pitched with the Dodgers bullpen, 7 strikeouts, no runs given up. And, of course, Gavin Stone, who started on Wednesday, had a complete game. Or rare for a complete game for a starting pitcher in today's MLB. Go figure, right? But
Well,
the
look, I
Dodgers
think
shows you why they're one of the best teams in baseball in every facet of the game.
yeah, I mean, Otani had a great showing in that Sox series, and you saw the crowd, especially for Mexican Heritage Night there. The crowds
Yes,
were
on
packed.
Wednesday.
Yeah, so the crowds were packed for that series, and we all know why it was because of the White Sox. So I was actually surprised that they actually lost, because I think that was the one game I thought that maybe they could steal. They weren't able to do that. So I think the Dodgers are kind of showing you that, look, I mean, they had a rough weekend last weekend, so I guess playing the Sox can kind of cure whatever ails you. So they did just that. So no Betts, no Kershaw, but look, no problem, because the Sox are not very good. So look, Dodgers took care of business. It's look, you'll take it if you're the Dodgers. I mean, you can't help who you play on their schedule. That the White Sox are terrible at the moment.
Exactly. And of course, the White Sox will play the Colorado Rockies this Wednesday, starting tonight. If for those of you that are attending tonight's game, it may be delayed. Let's hope not, but the weather could become a factor tonight. Don't forget the early start time for tonight's game is at 6:10 because of country singer Jordan Davis will have a post-game concert following the game. So those of you that are attending tonight's game, remember the start time is at 6:10 p.m. Chicago time. Of course, tomorrow's game is at 1 o'clock. And the Sunday's game is at 1 o'clock. I know that Garrett Crochet will be pitching on Sunday, so this will be my second time, if I'm counting down, I get to see Garrett Crochet live. So I'm really looking forward to that. And just for a note, Lakina, I want to take a moment here. Yours surely will be hanging out in Lot B tomorrow morning at Sox Park at 10 a.m., 2.5 hours before game time. The Chicago sports bums and the guys and gals want to run away. They'll hold their monthly tailgate in Lobby. Lots of bourbon, lots of food, great people. Everybody from White Sox Twitter will be there. So yours surely is going to be there too. So for those of you that are attending tomorrow's White Sox Colorado Rockies game, that start time is at 1:10 p.m. But come hang out at Lobby at Sox Park. We're going to have a great time.
And celebrate and drink responsibly, folks, as you're out there. This is Legacy Sports on Sports in Chicago. Lakeem McKee, Sneak Brown with you. Going into the rest of the baseball here. The Yankees, they've lost 8 of their last 10. And unfortunately, they lost the opener of that series to the Blue Jays. They lost both games in that Subway Series against the Mets. I want to implore folks, who are cheering for the Yankees' demise. Look, they're banged up right now, so I think people just to people start saying, "Oh, Yankees are frauds because of this and that." Look, Stanton's hurt. We know Garrett Cole has not made his debut yet, so they've had a lot of injuries. So it's just there's a lot of guys have been in and out of the lineup for the Yankees. So I think for people to kind of try to say, are the Yankees frauds because they've had they've kind of had a bad last couple of weeks. I think people need to kind of just chill on that.
Yeah, I did watch both games of that Subway Series between the Yankees and the Mets. If it wasn't for Aaron Judge's grand slam in that first game, that Yankees offense, their statistics would have looked terrible. You mentioned about Garrett Cole, Lakina. He did make his debut on Tuesday. He got rocked pretty good. But Carlos Rodon, we talked about him at the start of the year, struggling a little bit, but kind of getting back together. Before his last start last night at Toronto, in his last 2 starts, I'm talking about Rodon, he's given up a total of 12 earned runs, and he's been rocking his last 2 starts. Last night wasn't good for him either, but I do not blame him, Lakina. I blame that Yankees offense. You mentioned with the injuries, especially to Giancarlo Stanton. Aaron Judge is doing any and everything he can just to keep that Yankees lineup respectable. I know Juan Soto, I know he had a home run in that short series against the Mets, but had to have other guys step up besides Soto and Aaron Judge if the Yankees want to keep atop the AL East.
And also, I think Cole will figure it out. People need to remember that he hasn't pitched in months, so I think people need to kind of chill on the fact that oh my god, like look, let's slow down, folks, on that. But again, we'll see what happens now. Baltimore, they've been able to benefit from that. They're now tied with the Yankees in the AL East. They did lose Chad 3 to the Guardians, but they did win their opener against the Rangers yesterday. But again, Gunnar Henderson, one of the best leadoff hitters in the league. He has 26 home runs as we're recording this, and 25 of them have come while batting first in the order. The only other major leaguer to have at least 25 plus runs batting first is for this month is remember Brady Anderson, also from the Orioles, did it many years ago in 1996. He had 26. So, that was a nice showing by them. They've been able to benefit from, like I said, the Yankees not having the last good couple of weeks. But if you're Baltimore, I think you got to be feeling pretty good where you're at right now. Even though, you did have a rough series against Cleveland.
I did watch a couple of games of that Baltimore Cleveland series, and you mentioned the Baltimore finally ended their 5-game losing streak on Wednesday. Let's give love to Grayson Rodriguez. He's now quietly 10-3 on the year. We talked about Baltimore started pitching, suffering through injuries, Lakina, with Kyle Bradish and John Means, no relation to Kyle Means of War Media, but Baltimore needs to have consistently started pitching. You mentioned about the offensive names. We won't get into it here, but their starting pitcher was going to, I think, keep this young group intact. We already know they have a good bullpen led by veteran Craig Kimbrell, the closer. They may add another arm between now and the trade deadline, but Baltimore starting pitching needs to step it up, and Grayson Rodriguez did that on Wednesday. 7 innings pitched, only 2 earned runs and 4 strikeouts. It was very, very impressive. And one more thing about that offense, even that's how I was going to bring it up here. 12 home runs. Anthony Santander leads the major leagues in home runs for the month of June.
Big month. He's had a big month. So he has a big month so far. We'll see if he can finish up in these last couple of days in June. So now saying, Boston now they're kind of with like I said, with the Yankees kind of falling off a little bit. They've kind of gotten back into it. They won 2 out of 3 against Cincinnati, and then they won the last game got rained down in Toronto, in Boston for Toronto, but they did split their series, so they do play the Padres starting tonight. We'll see if Boston. I'm not still not sold on Boston yet. I mean, just we thought they figured things out. They kind of have a bad showing. So Boston, look, I don't know if they're going to be right up there with the Yankees and the Orioles, but they are kind of right there, and they're thinking for one of those wild card spots.
You mentioned they got kind of a little bit of a mini run here in this last week or so, but they were one of those teams that are consistently inconsistent. You think that one area is going to turn around, the other area falls, and it's just all about them putting together, having one nice streak. The time is now for them to do it. You mentioned with the Yankees struggling with injuries and whatnot. So let's see if Boston can continue to make their move.
See what they do here now. Going to the Central, Cleveland, like I said, Cleveland had a nice show. Like I said, they took 2 out of 3 against Baltimore. They did lose their opener against the Royals yesterday, 2-1. Just a tough showing there. Pacquistino hit the go ahead sack fly for the Royals so they can rally because they were down 1-0. But the Guardians are kind of right there. If you're the Royals, or we'll put them in here. You got to try to at least win the series or to stay right there to think of it with Cleveland.
Yeah, I think this is a bigger series for Kansas City. They got out to a nice start last night, as you mentioned. Michael Wacha, the former St. Louis Cardinals starting pitcher from back in the day, he pitched a whale of a game last night. I talked about Kansas City. This is time for them to make their move. That they struggle over the last couple of weeks against better teams. No better way to shut yours truly up and all the critics, and then to beat this Cleveland team this weekend, show up and win 3 out of 4. They got out to a nice start last night.
Yes, they did. We'll see if they can keep it up over the weekend. Staying in the Central, the Twins. The Twins win. They won 2 out of 3 against the D-bats in Arizona. They continue their West Coast trip in Seattle. Now we'll see if they can kind of get it going here as well. Now Minnesota kind of reminds me of a slightly better White Sox team. I know Byron Buxton hit that 3-run home run. Excuse me, because the game was already over with by the fifth inning. They won 13-6 in that rubber match there. But I think if you're the Twins, you want to try to kind of get it going here and see if you can kind of take advantage, especially if the Guardians are losing that series in to Kansas City.
Like I said all year about the Twins, I want to see them have strong, consistent starting pitching. That's going to be the key here.
Going out west now, Seattle. Not a good showing for the Mariners this week. They did save themselves against swept against the Rays, but they did end up losing 2 out of 3 there. So they do, like I said, they do play Minnesota, so they can kind of try to right the ship here. I'm not too worried about Seattle, but I do kind of think that they do need some starting pitching. Going to the trade line, and even another bat too. I think we talked about that the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Seattle needs another bat. We'll see who that is that the front office can get one between now and July 31st. I think for Seattle just to get off the road, because I think they only won 2 games total in Florida, so in their Florida road trip. So I think a nice home cooking at T-Mobile Field, which is known now, but I'm still going to call it Safeco Field. I think will be what the doctor ordered. So, but they're facing a good competitive Twins team. It should be a heck of a series.
Lots of fun. I will be watching that one to be this computer screen here now. Staying out west. Where's our buddy Brandon? At your Astros, Brandon. They did. They swept. We talked about it a lot earlier. Earlier this week, they swept the Orioles. They did sweep their 2-gamer at Colorado. They host Colorado, so they do actually face the Mets. So they're. Well, we'll talk about the Mets in a second. But yeah, I mean, Houston's looking pretty good. I mean, look, they've gotten, like we were saying, once Jose Abreu got DFA'd, I guess everything starts, cooking for the Astros.
Yeah, the Astros I talked about, they need to. They're going to be led by the office because of all the injuries to their pitching staff this year, including Justin Verlander, who's still on the IL. We talk about Kyle Tucker. We talk about Jose Altuve. We talk about Yordan Alvarez. But let's give credit to Spencer Arrighetti, the starting pitcher who won on Wednesday for the Houston Astros. His numbers were very impressive. As you mentioned, they completed a two-game sweep, I should say. 7 innings pitched, no walks, no runs, only giving up 3 hits with a career-high 10 strikeouts.
Kind of keeping things afloat for Houston on the pitching side, but it's really been their bat. So we'll see if they can keep it up against the Mets. We'll talk about the Mets in a second. Now, again, going into the NL East. As I can see, Sports on Sports Social Chicago, Lakeem McGee, Sidney Brown with you talking some baseball. Now, as far as the Phillies are concerned, now they did win 2 out of 3 in Detroit, but they did lose their opener against the Marlins. And I guess I wouldn't worry too much about them, but Bryce Harper did get hurt. So, and Kyle Schwarber says as well, you really can't afford to have those two spending an extensive amount of time in the IL, because if not, the Braves, and we'll talk about the Mets in a second, can get back in it. So hopefully it's not too serious for either of them, because you really need those two to kind of stay healthy to keep this streak going if you're the Phillies.
Yeah, we talk about Kyle Schwarber, we talk about JT Realmuto, and we talk about Trey Turner, who was hurt most of the year. Those are other big names in that Philadelphia Phillies lineup. But if Bryce Harper is gone for any extended period of time, that's going to spell trouble, because he's the spark plug that Philadelphia Phillies offense needs.
Let's hope that it's not, like I said, it's not too serious. Hopefully they can, get back, get going, and hopefully, the other guys can pick up the slack against the Marlins. Now, we'll talk about the Braves. Talked about earlier. Of course, they lost makeup game to the White Sox. They did lose their series against the Cardinals, including a doubleheader, so they might have been a little bit exhausted. So, but if you're Atlanta, you got to be feeling pretty good where you're at right now, especially with all the injuries. So we'll see if Atlanta can kind of get it back going.
Yeah, they're 9 games above 500. Like you said, they should have won that game yesterday against the White Sox, but with the doubleheader the day before and then get into town early Thursday morning, players had to deal with these kinds of situations, but you had to be a professional, so go out there and do your job. But as we said before, it looks like Atlanta's starting to they accepted the fact that Acuna Jr. is not going to come back. They still had to start creating runs. It looks like they were starting to do that, but they're still going to be led by their starting pitcher with Renato Lopez, former White Sox starter. Chris Sale, you saw what he did against his former team yesterday. But I'm looking for Max Fried and Charlie Morton, both those guys to step up at the end of that Braves rotation.
Going to be interesting to see if they can kind of keep it going here. Now, speaking of the Mets, the messy Mets, like I'm still calling them that because I know they've won 14 of their last 19. I get it. They swept that 2-gamer against the Yankees. I get it. Francisco Lindor has heated up a lot for the Mets, and look, I get it, but again, they're still 12 and a half. They're up there in the wild card. I will say that, but they're still 12 and a half back in that division. So I think they might have dug themselves too big of a hole to be a factor in that division. Look, I know Lindor's been really good. I know Alonso, for what we've heard, he doesn't want to go anywhere. That might be a reason why, Grimace aside. But we'll see. Like I said, we're going to a new month, so we're gonna see. I want to see if the Mets are for real. I want to see these first couple weeks in July and see if this Mets team is for real, the Metropolitans.
You must have been listening to WFAN, their midday show yesterday, so that was all they were talking about yesterday. But I digress. But let's not forget Edwin Diaz, their star closer. He's on the he's suspended for 10 games because of having some illegal sticky stuff in that series finale last Sunday here in Chicago against the Cubs. So the Mets so far, like you said, they've been hot for the month of June. They're back in it. I want to see the rest of their starting pitching start to pick it up here. It was the Mets office that carried them for that 2-game sweep against the Yankees. So we'll see what happens with them going forward between now and the All-Star break. If they're any closer to the Phillies in the NL East at the All-Star break, I think the Mets front office will make a move prior to July 31st.
Alvarez, his 30th home run during that series. He's only 22, and he's the only catcher in MLB history to reach 30 career home runs. He has 30 total. At even a younger age, after Johnny Bench did it many years ago. And also to Pudge Rodriguez too. He did it about just a little over 22. Like I said, Bench was 21, so he joins good company there in that realm. Now going into the Central, Milwaukee. I know they've won 4 in a row. I want to see how this team does it. A bunch of, like I said, other than Gary Sanchez and guys like that, the Cubs are going to see them again this weekend. I know they had a walk off against the Rangers on Wednesday, but I like I said, I don't think that's a young squad. They're kind of playing like with house money. I know Sanchez in the IL with a calf strain, but like I said, I'm still not convinced that this team is for real yet. I mean, I kind of feel like I want to see how they do in July. Now, if they're still leading by 9 or 10 games in July, then I'll take them seriously. But right now, I'm still everyone in that Central is still riding within striking distance, in my opinion. So let's see how they do in July right before the trade, and then I'll take them seriously.
Let me ask you a question, Lakina. I was watching MLB Tonight a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about who's the NL MVP. One of those names were brought up outside of Mookie Betts, who's now currently injured, is William Contreras from the Brewers. It's just looking at his stats here: 292, 9 home runs, 49 RBI on the year with an OPS of 794. Do you think he's at least a top 5 candidate for NL MVP this year?
I think he's definitely in the top 5. Like I said, would I put him in the top 3? Not just yet. I want to kind of I think like some people, I think people want to see how this team does the rest, going into the All-Star break right now. But I think he's definitely in the top 5. He deserves to be there. But like I said, I don't think he's up there in the top tier, not just yet.
Okay. I think he's in the mix, but I don't think he's number 1 either. But we'll see what happens as they take on the Cubs this weekend.
All right, the Cardinals. Like I said, they're kind of like they've kind of been up and down lately. They lost their opener to the Reds yesterday, so we'll see if they can kind of get it going here and sort of keep up with that. Like I said, everyone in that Central is still within striking distance. So I'm not going to give the Brewers a division just yet. So we'll see what happens. Give me a month and then we'll talk about that. Now going into the NL West, the Dodgers we talked about. Like I said, they swept the White Sox. Getting with just a doctor order, they got the day off before they start their series in the Bay Area this weekend. But yeah, we talked about Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman. The pitch has been really good for the Dodgers, I should say, in the middle relief. I mean, I think they still need to get a middle relief, a setup guy going to the trade deadline. But yeah, I think if you're the Dodgers, you got to be feeling pretty good. And no one has been, been wanting Dave Roberts gone, so I guess that's a plus.
I think it's unless they suffer any more injuries to any other key players, I think it's a foregone conclusion that the Dodgers are going to win the NL West. I know San Diego's been on fire lately. They finally got it together. Finally, hopefully they can keep it up for their sake. But for the Dodgers, will they get another shortstop? Assuming that Mookie Betts doesn't come back sooner than expected, could they perhaps get another starting pitcher now where Clayton Kershaw was expected to come back at the All-Star break, which I think he will, but he had a sack bat the other day in his rehab start. So we'll see what happens there.
That Padres series we'll talk. Yeah, let's go talk about that. That Padres series against the Nationals was a little bit. Well, I mean, I don't want to say it was eventful. I'll use those words because there was a little bit of a dust up in Wednesday's game, and Jackson Profor, his last 6 at bats. I mean, he's been really good. I mean, he has hit. Check this out. I got to make sure I get this right. A 3-run double. This is last few at bats. A 3-run double, grand slam, a 3-run double, a 2-run single, and a grand slam. After there was a little bit of a dust up that happened in that Wednesday game in that series. Over his last 6 at bats with the bases loaded. Only one other major leaguer in the last 50 years has done that, has had at least 19 RBIs in a span of 6 bases loaded at bats, and that is Mr. Albert Pujols, who did all the way back in 2009. Kind of a similar type number. So, again, he only had one run single that time during that span, but everything else was still much the same. So we'll see if the Padres kind of figure it out, because like we said, when they're not playing the Dodgers, they're just they look kind of like ordinary. So they did sweep the Nationals, what they were supposed to do. So we'll see if they can get it going.
It looks like Dylan Cease is turning it around here as well. He had double-digit strikeouts in his last start. So we'll see what happens if he can finally get some run support. Unlike here at times here in Chicago.
Yeah. He still has that mustache to him. You're in San Diego, Dylan. You can reshave the mustache, dude. It's okay. Look at it. It doesn't fit San Diego. I mean, look, in Chicago was fine, the mustache. But yeah, you're in San Diego now, dude. You don't have to keep the mustache. Now, going to this weekend's games, Miami and Philadelphia. They continue their series. Philadelphia will try to bounce back from losing the opener yesterday. The Nationals and Tampa. Should be a good one here. You got Texas and Baltimore. They start their series. New York and the Yankees and the Blue Jays. We'll see if they can try to get these going, because the Blue Jays, I don't know what the hell happening with them right now. That's mentioned Colorado and the White Sox. Take the over on all those games. The Mets and Houston, another good series. The first game of that series, for all you guys, the metropolitan area in Houston. Brandon, I hope you're listening to this. It's going to be on Apple TV Plus. As is the first game of the Padres-Red Sox series. The Padres start their East Coast trip. That first game will be on Apple TV Plus as well at 6:10.
Finish out the rest of the schedule for MLB for this weekend. Pittsburgh visits Atlanta. Paul Skeens will pitch tomorrow for Pittsburgh in that series. The Cubs and the Brewers will do battle in Milwaukee. Cleveland and Kansas City will continue their 4-game series. Cincinnati will visit St. Louis. Detroit will continue their 4-game series on the left coast against the Anaheim Angels. As we mentioned earlier, the Twins will face the Mariners in Seattle. Oakland will visit Arizona, and the Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants will do battle by the Bay this weekend. The first time these two teams have met since the death of Willie Mays. Your national TV coverage looks like this. Tomorrow, Saturday at 3:05 p.m. Chicago time on FS1, you have the Cubs and Brewers in the second game of that series. Your Fox Saturday night baseball game of the week looks like this. Most of the country will get the Dodgers and the Giants, while the other half of the country will get the Texas Rangers and the Baltimore Orioles coverage. tomorrow night will begin at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And your Roku TV Sunday morning contest will feature the Atlanta Braves hosting the Pittsburgh Pirates. And your Sunday night baseball game of the week will have Texas at Baltimore at 6 p.m. Chicago time.
And that is your schedule for this weekend in MLB. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up here on Second City Sports. On Sports of Chicago, we got a busy segment in the 1 o'clock block. The Bulls get their guy in the NBA draft. Bronny and his dad looks like they'll be playing together in the NBA draft that finished up yesterday. Connor Bedard wins big, as does the Panthers, and the Blackhawks pull off a couple of trades before their draft, NHL draft, starts tonight. Also, our girl Taylor Dahl from Helmets and Heels of 1010XL in Jacksonville will preview the Bears in the NFL, and a whole lot more. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. A busy hour 2 coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the hashtag Friday Fun Edition, the last one of the month of June. We're live in the living color right here on Sports So Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, the IG.
If you have any questions or comments for us as we dive into the NBA draft, Stanley Cup final, NBA trades, and sports media galore in our grab bag in this block right here, You could go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get the up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color right now on Roku TV.
Okay, Sid, the NBA draft commenced on yesterday, and the first round, of course, was on Wednesday. And of course, as expected, the top two players came from France, Zachary Richier and Alexar, who we talked about on Monday. They would 1-2 to the Hawks and the Wizards. The Rockets take Kentucky, all SEC Kentucky guard Reed Shepherd. Stephen Castle, of course, from the two-time national champion UConn Huskies, goes to San Antonio. The Pistons get Ron Holland II from League at Night. Some of the big games here. Donovan Clingan ended up going to also from Connecticut. He ended up going to Portland. The Spurs also take Rod Dillingham, also via trade from the T-Wolves. Zach Edey, who I know you were hoping that the Bulls would get, because I told you that they may not last. He may not last till 12. He didn't. He ends up going to Memphis. Cody Williams from Colorado, another name that we mentioned. He ended up going to Utah. The Bulls at 11, they took Matisse Buzelis from League Ignite. Of course, he's a Hinsdale kid. He's 19 years old. This is the guy the Bulls wanted the whole time, the name that was floating around there. So the Bulls did get their guy. Dalton Kennett, who, in case you're wondering where he went, he ended up going to the Lakers, much to Sid's chagrin. But this was sort of like a draft where you got a lot of international guys. You got guys that played league ball and prep league ball. A little bit of sprinkling of college guys in between. But yeah, I didn't watch a lot of the draft. I really didn't have a lot of excitement. We'll get to the other stuff in the second round in a second, because some interesting things happened there. But Sid, what did you think about the first round on Wednesday?
Congratulations to Mr. Buzelis for being drafted by the Bulls. Like you said, he has Chicago area ties. He's a 6'9" forward, 197 pounds. I get why the Bulls wanted to do it, but I know me personally, I wanted Dalton Kennett. I wanted a shooter, because that's what this Bulls team needs, despite what the roster is going to look like for next season for 24-25. But the Bulls need a shooter, and from what the scouting reports I read and heard over the last couple of days about Buzelis, he struggles shooting from the three-point range, 27% this past season. That's not good. And we all know that this Bulls team needs shooters. Whether you want to call a retool or rebuild, this team needs shooters. Now, I'm wishing Buzelis the best, but it looks like he's going to be a project. Like Keena, whether this is a retool or rebuild, you need impact players. You need them now.
Yeah, I'm with you. So like I said, I don't know what was the mindset is. I know there's some weirdness going on here with some people, but it is what it is with this Bulls squad. So what more can you say about this Bulls squad at this point? It's just a lot of weirdness going on here now. Going to the second round, of course, in case y'all missed it, it came on like very early, like late afternoon because of other stuff. But we won't go there. Kyle Flickowski, he is up going to Utah. I know there was some stuff about that, but again, Google is your friend, folks. We're not gonna talk about it.
Right,
here.
I saw that too. Yeah, we'll leave it alone.
Yeah, exactly. But the big story here is that Bronny James ends up being drafted to the Lakers. Look, at 55, look, folks, okay. Kind of like, what happened with, Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. in Seattle back in 1990. Everybody wants to kind of like, nepotism and such and stuff. But look, Gordie Howe played with his sons. And I think people need to kind of just like, Tim Raines played with his son too. Tim Jr. Played in the league for a little bit. In the MLB, I should say, for a little bit. But yeah, I'm just like, it's a nice story. And look, this is kind of like where he was going to anyway. No one should really be shocked by this. We'll see in a couple of years with his youngest son, Bryce, because he's already getting a lot of looks from various colleges. And some say he's actually the better player than Bronny is. So we'll see what happens with that. I think he's about to be a junior, in high school. this coming fall. So yeah, I think we'll see where that's going to probably be where all the pressure's going to be on him. But I digress. But yeah, I mean, congrats to LeBron, and look, he gets to play with, probably going to end up playing with his father. So okay, cool.
It's going to be a 1 or 2 year experiment. We'll see what happens with Bronny James, what he does in the preseason and training camp. From the storyline aspect of it was a great story. One of the worst kept secrets of sports. You love to see the love between a father and a son, no matter what field that you're in. But as far as Bronny James playing in the NBA, he's going to be a project. He barely played in 15 games, I believe, Lakina, this year. Remember, he had that terrible heart condition to start his college career. Looks like everything's going all right now. He hasn't had any setbacks, thank goodness, as far as continuing on with his basketball career. But if anybody expects his son to be a difference maker, you're kidding yourselves. I think the Lakers knew that, and all the other teams knew that as well. I think it would have been a shot if Bronny James was selected before he got to 55. If he was selected before then, the draft would have been thrown off, and people would have had their hands in there and say, what's going on here? But I think GMs and other executives around the league recognize real talent when they see it, most of them anyway. So once again, congratulations to LeBron, and his son now joining forces. And we'll see what happens. Could this be in another, I hate to say this, but another unnecessary distraction as we go into last year, maybe 2-3 years of LeBron James's career? Could it be another distraction? How long can LeBron James play? Will his son stay there as long as he does? We'll see how the Lakers will handle all this.
Not to mention you're going to be playing under a new coach too. So yeah, more fun things happening in Los Angeles. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. Now, one of the big things that happened like during the draft was right before the draft, I should say, was Mikal Bridges is on the move. He's going to the Knicks, reunited with some of his fellow teammates from Villanova, the Nova Knicks, I guess they're calling them now. And I mean, look, it's a nice. I know the Knicks also made a couple of moves. I mean, look, it's nice, but look, I look at this as like, look, here's another guy that Tiz can, wear down to the ground. I mean, sorry, folks, it's not. I know Knicks fans don't want to hear it, but as a person, as the both of us and other Bulls fans who saw this, I know some Bulls fans wish that Tiz was still here, but there's a reason why he's not. So keep that in mind. But yeah, a nice trade by the Knicks. But like I said, do I think they're the favorites to win the East? I mean, yeah. I mean, look, they're in the top 3 or 4 now, but I'm not gonna say they're the favorite. I mean, But did Boston lose something? Are they? I'm sure they're gonna beef up a little bit there too. I mean, they've got a lot of those guys like Tatum and Brown. A lot of those guys are still like quality controlled. Philadelphia, we'll see how Embiid looks. Coming back next year, I think they're gonna have to maybe bring in somebody, maybe a Paul George or someone like that. So yeah, I'm not gonna put the Knicks. Look, I think the Knicks are still in that second tier, even though with these trades, I know Nobi they just signed Nobi to a contract there as well.
And let's not forget the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's been injured the last 2 years for the Bucks during their playoff runs and their early playoff exits. But back to the Knicks, Lakina, I still think they need to make one more move as far as getting a big name in there. Will they be able to do it? I'm not sure. They're not going to go after Kevin Durant. They could have had him a few years ago, but we all know how that went. Donovan Mitchell looks like he wants to sign an extension with Cleveland, but we'll see what happens with that. But the way the Knicks are operating right now, like you said, they're at the top of that next tier group. And we saw what happened with Jalen Brunson this year. And we saw what happened with Julius Randle. Will he still be on the roster by the time next season starts? And let's not forget about Isaiah Hartenstein. He's a free agent this summer. And also to OJ Anunoby, will you, even though you traded for him and he was doing well for the Knicks before he got hurt, so will you sign him to an extension? So the Knicks front office still has some tough decisions to make.
There's like so much that can still have to move around. Like you said, the PG stuff is getting kind of, well, it's getting tired, but it's kind of interesting as well. I know there were some people that said that maybe KD. I know Dallas, they're interested, but with what you guys, they don't have any money, so I don't know how they're gonna have to move some stuff around. Now they just traded Tim Hardaway Jr., but they're gonna do more than that. They want to try to get Durant. I know the Bulls might be interested in Durant to what for what, but whatever. Just a bunch of silliness going on. I think we're in Lion season NBA, so we'll see. It should be
most definitely.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, a couple of quick notes on the NBA before we move on, Lakina. Terrence Shannon Jr. from the University of Illinois, he gets selected at number
Yay.
27 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And congratulations to our former intern at the old D and Davis show and the afternoon show I used to co-host and produce back in our CSR days on State Street. Melvin Taylor, he's now an actor living out there in the New York City area, big Laker fan. But his cousin Antonio Reeves got selected out of University of Kentucky. Now he's the new member of the New Orleans Pelicans. So congratulations to Melvin Taylor and his family. His cousin Antonio Reeves got selected by the New Orleans Pelicans.
Good for him and good for Terrence Shannon Jr. Actually, the T-Wolves actually had a nice draft, so they got like a nice little mix of. You got Ant. We'll see where they put. Do they move Cat? Do they move? Some people say maybe they might move Rudy Gobert Jr. They may bring in somebody. So we'll see. I think. Look, Minnesota is an intriguing team to watch for this off season. So we'll see what happens with them.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sydney Brown, Lakina McGee with you. Let's do that hockey, Lakina, as the 2023-2024 season comes to a close with the Florida Panthers as your new Stanley Cup champions, the first time in franchise history. They failed at their first two attempts of winning that ultimate prize in sports. 1996 got swept by Colorado. Last year, they lose to the Las Vegas Golden Knights. This season, the third time was the charm. They beat the Edmonton Oilers in 7 games by the final score of 2-1 in Game 7, the highest rated Game 7 on ESPN in a long time, on ABC/ESPN in a long time. Connor McDavid gets the MVP for the playoffs for the losing team of the Conn Smythe Trophy. I think he's the first place since John Sebastian Jaguar back at 03 with the Anaheim Ducks when they lost to New Jersey Devils in 7 games. Lakina, there was some, first of all, congratulations to the Panthers on winning the Stanley Cup. They avoided disaster and they avoided history in the wrong direction. But many people in the hockey circle said that Connor McDavid should have came out on the ice to accept that trophy. Lakina,
why?
Here's the thing: you just played your off for 7 games. You lost Game 7. You have no energy left. I'm sure he accepted the trophy in the locker room after the game, but you just spent 60 minutes playing your heart out for a trophy. Why would you come out? Now, if he would have came out, fine, whatever. I know it would have quote-unquote pleased everybody, but it's not required for him to come out. It's not like he did it to stick it to anybody.
Yeah, I mean,
he was still going through some emotions after the handshake line. He had to take some time to gather himself. The athletes are allowed to get that few minutes of cooling off period, folks.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of silly that there are people that are like, I mean, I know Bobrovsky did not have his best showing those like 3 games, before the last game. He actually had his better game, the last couple of games in that last game in Game 7. But yeah, I mean, I think he's like this. I think McDavid's like the 6th guy to win. And look, I didn't see Ron Exxon did it back in '87. I didn't see Van Breesbroek did it, back in '03. So, I mean, it's not a requirement that they have to go out there. I mean, why should they go out there? And look, I get it. I don't say it's protocol and over, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually do that. So it's kind of silly that people are kind of getting on him. Like, would you want to get out there after you lose, especially? No. So leave that alone and whatever. But it's kind of silly that that was talked about. But again, I digress. Now let's go to the good stuff for the hockey. Sid, I'm happy for Paul Maurice. This is I remember when he first started coaching the old Hartford Whalers. I remember how young he was. He had all the hair, looked very young, and you saw that great moment with him and Emily Kaplan.
Those green uniforms.
Yeah, right. Oh, I miss those jerseys, by the way. But you saw the great moment with him and Emily Kaplan, who when he got the cup, you saw there was a snapshot of him, with the rest of the team and the crowd. I forgot who took that picture for them, but that was a sort of like a snapshot, another like iconic moment. We talked about that with the NBA Finals with Jason Tatum and his son Deuce. Now that was a great moment with Coach Maurice. They're finally getting his cup. I'm happy for Alexander Barkov. He's the first Finnish captain to have to be presented with the cup. Sam Reinhart, the second scorer, 50 goal scorer to score the game winner. He did that game winner in Game 7. Got all the way back to when Yuri Curie did it with the Oilers back in '87. I remember that. So really great moment all around. You know, it was just a, and you know, are you happy for the Roberto Luongo, because he works? He did play a little bit there, and he was actually eating pasta out of that Stanley Cup, which I don't know if that's sanitary, but I don't know.
Bobby
But,
Lou,
are you happy?
like I referred to him back in
Yes,
back
yes. I will say, are you happy for him, Sid?
out of respect, yes, because he's not playing anymore. But I get why so many fans, including Blackhawks fans, had for a looser term, hatred for him back in the day. It was him, Dustin Buffalo going at it. There was some great moments there, but I'm not going to lose my breath over that. But you notice that one person that did not get a mention, looking at least nationally anyway, who helped at least trying to stir all this for the Florida Panthers a couple of years ago, who was their former head coach,
Oh yeah, yeah. I know
Quenneville.
yeah,
Hmm.
Joe Quenneville. Yeah.
He was let go,
Well,
following that
yeah,
that
yeah,
Kyle Beach investigation. Yeah,
yeah. So
I was just
and
saying, you wonder what his emotions were the other night.
yeah, so you know, and actually, look, look, Paul Maurice was actually coaching. Yeah, he was watching one of his sons play hockey, and as you know, they were coming in, and he was approached to become the head coach a couple of years ago. A lot of people thought they were nuts to do that, but look, it's actually has worked dividends. So they finally win their cup, their
Hmm.
first time in franchise history, and the ratings were good too. I think 14 million combined. If you combine like both the American ratings, which is just about a little under 8 million, like you said, so they have about 7 million in
Hmm.
Canada. And this is what I think this is. Let me get this up. I think it's like what the fifth straight time that a Canadian team has a chance to bring the Stanley Cup back to Canada, and they did not do it. So yeah, 5 straight game sevens losses for, I don't know if that's Gary Bettman calling me, but since '93. But also, too, on the flip side, though, Coach Maurice is now 5-0 in Game 7. So on the flip side, there, so that kind of helps a little bit there. So yeah, congrats to the Coach Maurice and the Panthers. We'll see if they can try to repeat next year.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Couple more notes on hockey. Of course, the NHL draft starts tonight, and we'll probably have something on the show on Monday. But another former Blackhawk finally gets his due. Jeremy Roenick, a.k.a. JR. If you really know me, he was my first favorite hockey player back in the 90s with the Blackhawks. He's finally getting his just due. He's going to be elected to the Pro Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto coming up next season. This is a very well-deserved honor. I believe he's in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, but now he's in the big Hall of Fame in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is. I think he made the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. I think like in the early aughts, like 09 or like 10 or something. That now he's going to be in the big one. That's the big one in Toronto. 1,216 points, 513 goals, in 1,363 regular season games. For the Hawks, of course, the Coyotes, the Flyers, the Kings, and the Sharks. And combined, and of course, he was an Olympian, and I think he's like top 5 with all those goals and points. I think he's like the top 5 among U.S. born players, so that's a pretty good list. I think Mike Modano's on a list as well, so that's a pretty impressive. And Brett Holt too. I think there's a pretty impressive list to join, and so good for him. And look, how do you feel about his politics? He was a damn good hockey player. He was one of my favorite Blackhawks growing up in those great '90s. Early in the mid-90s Blackhawks teams. So, he definitely deserves it among some of the other players are going to be part of that class. Shea Weber, who I didn't know, make you feel old, Sid. I mean, Shea Weber, with the Predators and the Canadians, 224 goals in that span, 589 points. This is really more what got him going. He also has a couple gold medals, too, with Canada in the Olympics, so that's what kind of got him over the top there. And Pavel Datsyuk, very deserving. I was surprised he wasn't already in the Hall of Fame already, but yeah, another player from the early 2000s that's going to the Hall of Fame. Of course, won 2 Stanley Cups with Detroit, and also has a couple of medals as well in the Olympics with Russia. So a great class leading the way there.
Yeah, congratulations to all those that were nominated and selected. Yeah, Lakina, we're getting on hearing some of these names. Jeremy Roenick, of course, he had the flair, he had the attitude, he had the swag, as the kids would say. And the NHL game was very different back then. Everything was played tight. Not much scoring was allowed, and so for him to put up those numbers during that time was very impressive.
Very impressive indeed, and I think the ceremony is like later this year. So you guys, I'm sure the NHL Network, and of course you can probably watch on YouTube as well. I'm sure Mr. Rowe is going to probably have one of the speeches of the night. So look out for that. Now, the NHL awards were given out yesterday. In case you guys missed it, Nathan McKinnon was the big winner here. He that they no really big surprise. I mean, Mr. McKinnon, of course, from the Avs, he won the Hart Trophy for MVP. He also won the Ted Lindsay Trophy for sportsmanship, and such. But of course, Mr. Connor Bedard won the Calder Trophy. Not a shocker for Rookie of the Year. So amongst some of the other big winners, let's see here. I think that's about it. Of course, Bedard also made the Rookie team. Again, no big surprise. So, not a big surprise with some of these awards that were handed out on last night. And, of course, you can catch the replays on YouTube and also, of course, on NHL Network.
Yeah, congratulations to Connor Bedard. Like you said, no surprise there. Remember, he missed a little bit over a month and being hit in the face against the New Jersey Devils on the road. Our girl Rachel Ray Kachuk was at that game. I do not blame her. I'm just saying those were the circumstances. But imagine what kind of numbers Mr. Bedard would have put up if he didn't miss a little bit over a month and a half of action.
Yeah, that's so missing that a little over a month. But yeah, it's such a tough one. But look, I mean, we'll see what the Hawks do tonight. They made a couple of big trades, switched some picks. So we'll see if they take Demidov. I mean, that's a name that's going to be floated around there for the Blackhawks. And also Rick Tocchet, of course, the Vancouver coach, won the Jack Adams Award, of course, for Coach of the Year. Jim Nill wins GM of the Year for Dallas. So, but yeah, going back to the NHL draft, that will be commencing in Vegas starting tonight. The Demidov, I think, look, the Hawks are at 2. We just see what Kyle Davidson does, especially in the later rounds, because they've already moved some picks around. So looking forward to see what they kind of build upon to kind of play with Bedard and the rest of that group, because I'm fascinated to see how the big of this Hawks team is going to be next year.
I know people want the Hawks to be more competitive next year. I think they will be. That's why some of these moves are made. But I still believe they're another couple years away of going into the playoffs. I know if you believe some of the reports that Kyle Davidson said he wants to make that jump next year or sneaking into the playoffs, that would be great for this franchise, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, they kind of have to get it going here first. Kind of get that core together first, so you can kind of work on, and you got your mix of veterans, so you got to kind of get that together before you can start talking about wanting to contend.
Yeah. One more note, Lakina, we'll talk about this with our guests coming up after the break. But next Sunday on the Marquee Sports Network, the Chicago Cubs will have their first all-female broadcast featuring Beth Mowins, Taylor McGregor, and Miss Elise Maneker.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I mean, that's kind of like the new trend. I don't want to say it's trendy, but look, all three of those women are. We know the great. Beth Mowins does Cubs games occasionally anyway. We know Elise Maneker actually plays softball at Cornell, so and of course we know Taylor McGregor is great at what she does on the dugout. So not a big surprise here. I mean, look, it's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully, the Cubs can win one, and if they do. And if they do win, some people may say, "Hey, let's keep them there." That might be a good luck charm. So we'll see what happens.
You said this is another Grimace situation. I don't think you could turn it into that, but
I would hope not, but we'll see. Okay, so also to some sports media news. Well, actually, Olympic stuff, of course. Sha'Carri Richardson and Noah Lyles both make the Olympics teams in 100 meters. Now, Sha'Carri will get a nice little break because the young lady from Jamaica, I keep forgetting her name, who had won the last 2 Olympics, and both the 1 and 2 had to pull out because she injured her hamstring at the Jamaican trial. So a little bit of opening for Miss Richardson to break through and get that double. We'll see. The 200 meters will actually, the semis will actually, I think the finals are tomorrow, but the semis are tonight. You watch those on NBC and Peacock. Also to gymnastics, they start their.
I was just getting ready to ask you about that.
Yeah, they start on Friday, I believe, and I think Saturday is going to be like the main all around. So you get to see Simone Biles, and Jordan Childs and that group. So and also Fred Warner and some of the guys there as well. So you can catch that on NBC and Peacock this weekend.
Yeah, the men's trials for the USA gymnastics team is tomorrow afternoon on NBC as well. And track and field gets the primetime action tomorrow. So I'll definitely be checking that out. From Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah, they've already released like a lot. They're all like 150 some odd names of the folks that are going to be doing some of the various sports. Of course, our buddy Chris Vosters, he's going to be doing some action as well over there in Paris. Now, the one buzz here, of course, we'll get that before we go to break, but there's an AI of Mr. Al Michaels. Apparently, and I guess they are paying the actual Al Michaels. He's still with those folks for people who are not freaking out about that. But apparently, I guess they are cutting them a check, and I guess they're gonna, some of the various sporting events, there's the various highlights, and some of the. This is actually gonna be on Peacock, so you're not gonna hear it on the primetime slot, thank God. But it's just a little bit creepy, and it's a slippery slope here. This is what the actors were fighting for during the actors' strike last year.
Yep. By the way, the USA Women's Gymnastics trials will be on Sunday night in prime time at 7:00 Chicago time. NBC. But going back to Al Michaels, the AI voice, like you said, we have to be worried a little bit because we're moving into the more quote unquote advanced technology world. I'm using air quotes here, and for them to use his AI voice like that's very, like I said, very weird and very creepy, and I don't like it. And this is the way the future broadcasting is headed. This is not good.
Yeah, I guess he is getting paid, but even still, it's just the optics of it just sounds just a little bit weird to me.
Yeah.
All right,
Makes
now
no
with
sense.
yeah, exactly. Now with all the AI talk aside, of course, we're taking a really quick break. Of course, we got our girl Taylor Dahl coming up from Helmets and Heels on 1010XL in Jacksonville. She'll preview Bears and NFL. We'll also ask her about the antitrust lawsuit with NFL Sunday Ticket. We'll see if the NFL have to pay those billions of dollars. I doubt it, but we'll talk about that coming up next. Nikita McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports on Chicago. NFL talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver. I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things, none of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second Seed Sports on Sporto Chicago. Where'd Sid go? I guess. Wait, hold on. Oh, okay. Oh, look, you may have to refresh your screen, Sid, of course. But you can follow my Kid McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kid McGee on the IG. Of course, you can catch Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and IG at SidKit80. Of course, you can also catch him at SidKit80. So while Sid is on, trying to, he has to do a refresh, I guess, folks. We're going to talk to one of our good friends of the show. You can listen to her and watch her on Helmets and Heels on 1010XL in Jacksonville. She is the one, the only, the lovely Miss Taylor Dahl. Taylor, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
We're doing good as we're waiting for Sid. Hopefully, he'll join us. I know he's doing a refresh here in a second. Yeah, well, here he comes. Well, as he's coming up, so what do you think is the Bears silly with all the buzz going around about them? Of course, with Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze, with the defense and such. So there's Sid. There he is.
Hello, Taylor. How are you?
Good. Sorry, I'm a little late. We literally just had like a tornado in Jacksonville. So I was trying to get back to the office and it was pouring down rain. The skies were black. I was like, okay, what is happening?
Thank goodness you're okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. That's the important thing.
Yes. But yeah, ceiling, I think that I've talked about this a ton lately. The roster in general, when you look at it on paper, I think you could argue and you could go through each position group where we talk about wide receivers, obviously, with DJ and with Rome and with Keenan Allen, and then obviously with the tight ends too. So the pass catchers is one of the better in the league. But to me, when you also expand that and you go to the linebackers, I also think that Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards with Jack Sanborn behind them is one of the better linebacking groups. I do think the corner group in Chicago, one of the better corner groups in the league. So I think we have multiple position groups that you would put in the top 6-7 in the NFL. There are some depth when we talk about maybe the offensive line that you want to add to, or the safety position. Edge is a big question. But to me, I think that when you just look at this roster on paper, the expectations have to be pretty high because they're just at that point now where you're looking at a roster where most people would pluck our starters and want them on their day one rosters. And it was not like that whatsoever 3 years ago.
We'll get to Caleb Williams in just a moment, Taylor, but I want to focus in on one of the spots that's going to be the people going to focus on in training camp in a few weeks, and that's the offensive line. GM Ryan Post said there should be competition all around, which I would like to hear personally. But one of the positions that could be up for grabs is the right guard position. Nate Davis, and of course, Ryan Bates was acquired from Buffalo in the offseason. Many people, including yours truly, thought that, maybe that center position is finally sealed up, but not so fast. So what do you think about potential position battles in that offensive line there?
Yeah, I think the offensive line is a very interesting topic this year. I think that Darnell Wright had showed his way last year. I think we're looking at a guy over there, right tackle, that is our future right tackle, and I don't think there's a doubt about that. The guy played with a hurt arm almost the entire season and went up against guys like Max Crosby and held his own. When you look at that, you're not worried there. Tevin Jenkins is one of the best offensive linemen in the league when he's on the field, and that's what we have to see. We have to see Tevin play a full season. He's in a contract year right now, so it's really important for him. But if we see 17 out of Tevin, and I think that we're looking at a line where for sure your right tackle and your left guard are solidified, but also we know Tevin can play anywhere. So who knows, they may shuffle him around again. I'm a fan of Braxton Jones. I think we've slowly seen Braxton Jones develop and get better at certain things. He struggles against the bull rush. That's one thing that's always been kind of pointed out. So maybe adding some strength there is something that I've heard he's been working at this last offseason, and you do hope that kind of plays into this season. last year he battled some injuries too, and I think that was like an underrated topic. He had a concussion at one point, and it was just kind of banged up throughout the season. Missed some games, obviously. The year before, though, he didn't miss it. He played every single snap for the offensive line. So it's not like, to me, I'm worried that Braxton's one of the guys we have to worry about injury. But the interesting topic for me is if they don't feel like Braxton is that guy, they just drafted a guy named Austin Booker and Karan Amagaji, and Amagaji, I think, is brought in to kind of push Braxton Jones. And I feel like they have his replacement if it's not there. But the good news is if Braxton does take that step, Amagaji, I do think he's versatile and can play multiple positions on the line. And so that's one thing that I've liked that Ryan Poles has done when it comes to drafting, because he doesn't just go draft guys that he says, hey, this guy plays this position, we need to make him play this position. He gets versatile guys. He gets versatile guys when it comes to the secondary, offensive line, defensive line. He wants guys that he knows he can shuffle around and move. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye out, honestly, in my opinion, that Braxton Jones, Kyron Amagaji conversation. When you mentioned Nate Davis, this one's a little bit of unfortunate because I honestly was pretty excited when the Bears signed Nate Davis. And unfortunately, it's just between injuries, he's not practicing. Some of it I want to put on him because it's kind of become a joke now where he doesn't practice. It's just he doesn't go to training camp. He's just kind of enclosed on the sideline. All of the OTAs, he was barely there or barely working out. During the season, he'll practice a day or two. The rest you hear that he's on the sideline, just kind of doing light stuff. And then that led to injury after injury after injury. And so I think that his job is definitely in question because we can't have another season where we're having to flip-flop and move things around. You want to build something in front of Caleb Williams that is solid. I want to say, I mean, between last year and the year before, we probably saw 17, 18 different formations on the offensive line. That can't happen. Like, you cannot have that much inconsistency on your offensive line. So Nate Davis, I think he's going to have to really prove himself, or if not, in my opinion, you put Ryan Bates at center. We talked about Connor Williams. Maybe they'll bring someone in like Connor Williams. That's a question I think they're going to see in camp more so. But in my opinion, you put Ryan Bates at center, you put Coleman Shelton at right guard, or have him compete with Nate Davis at right guard because he has played that position. And then to me, you have a pretty solid offensive line.
Let's talk about the defense for a second, Taylor, because that. You said the secondary is pretty good. Jalen Johnson got his money, but the pass rush is still a little bit of a concern to me. So do you think they're going to try to maybe go pass rush by committee in conjunction with Montez Sweat, or do they try to get somebody off the street? What do you think the Bears are going to ultimately do?
Yeah, that one's honestly a high concern for me too, and I think that what I think they're running with right now, and this is what I truly believe they'll go into camp with, is you're going to see DeMarcus Walker there opposite Montez Sweat. And I mentioned Austin Booker earlier. Austin Booker, I don't think they brought in to be a guy right away, but I do think that they're looking at Austin Booker to potentially be that opposite end of the future. I think he's raw. He has some things to work on, so it's not going to be a right away thing for him, but I do see them working him in. So I'm picturing a line where the majority of the time we're looking at DeMarcus Walker, Javon Dexter, Andrew Billings, and Montez Sweat. And then they will rotate a little bit because we've seen that with Eberflus. Excuse me, last year towards the end of the season, they were kind of all over. DeMarcus Walker, obviously, when Jan was in, played a lot more on the interior. But when Jan went out, DeMarcus slid out and was playing that edge position a lot. But they still moved everybody. We saw Javon Dexter playing edge at certain points. We saw, obviously, Rasheem Green, I always forget his name, playing edge for a little bit. And so he does move people around a decent amount. So I think that they're going to go into camp with the idea that DeMarcus Walker is going to be that edge across from Montez Sweat and play it out a little bit. If they're not seeing what they want out of DeMarcus Walker, then I do expect them to make an affordable move, not anything crazy, big splash, big money defensive end move, but just something to get them through maybe even the first half of the season. And then you look at week 8 and they do go make that splash play like we saw them do with Montez Sweat. But I do think they want to see what they have with DeMarcus Walker on that outside and building Austin Booker into the defensive line. It'll be interesting, though. I've said it a lot on a ton of my podcasts that DeMarcus Walker's better on the inside. All 7 of his sacks in Tennessee came from playing the interior of the line. And so he's definitely better there at getting to the quarterback. But one thing I point out to people, go watch the last like 5-6 games when Jan was out and they had Walker on the outside a decent amount. I think he ended up had 2.5 sacks during that time, was getting to the quarterback a decent amount. That's when we were seeing more pressures. I think a lot of that does come from what Montez Sweat added to the line. But I know Yannick Ngakoue is one of the names that a lot of people talk about potentially bringing back. So I could see that maybe if they're in panic mode in camp. But if not, I could kind of see him riding it out for a little while and relying on that Montez and more from Javon Dexter, and then waiting maybe until that trade deadline and making the splash then if they really need it.
Friend of the show, Miss Taylor Dahl from 1010XL in Jacksonville, Florida, and the host of the Making Monsters podcast, is joining us here on Second City Sports, the Friday Funny Edition on Sports Zone Chicago, discussing the Chicago Bears. Taylor, let's jump into the running back room. Of course, DeAndre Swift was acquired from Philadelphia this offseason. You still have now second-year guy Roschon Johnson, and you have Khalil Herbert, and Travis Homer is still here. Why, I don't know, but I digress. But assuming that assuming that DeAndre Swift will get the majority of the carries, who do you think is going to pick up the rest of the slack in the backfield? Is it Roschon Johnson? Is it Khalil Herbert? Or could one of those guys get moved during training camp?
I like the three. I think that I honestly believe our running back group is a little underrated. When I'm seeing all the rankings around the league of the top running backs groups in the league, I haven't seen Chicago in those. And it's interesting to me because DeAndre Swift in the last 4 years has led the league when it comes to receptions, when it comes to yards. Khalil Herbert, to me, is just underrated in general. He's one of the best running backs in the league, and there's statistics to back this up. And when it comes to forcing missed tackles and yards after contact, that's just what he does. He's incredible at that. We know the issues with Herbert. Herbert is not that blocking type of running back. He's not really the pass catching type of running back. So that's kind of hurt him in the aspect because he is really more of like a one lane type of running back. Also contract year for him. So it'll be really interesting to kind of see. That's why I believe this year we're going to see a lot more of Roschon Johnson. I do think that the Bears are going to want to see what they have out of Rojo because they have to decide what they're doing with Khalil Herbert. We're in this league now where the people don't really want to pay running backs. So I could see a circumstance where they're, unfortunately, because I like Juice, kind of start weeding him out of this offense to see what they have behind him. I think most people are counting on DeAndre Swift's going to be the dude this year, hoping he can make it through the season. He's had some injury issues in his past, obviously, but he had a career year last year. And it's almost an underrated factor that he got to when he kind of gets this fresh start. He has this like insane year, and then now the Bears have him. And so, let's also remind people that the run blocking part of our offensive line has always been the better part of our offensive line, especially the last few years. So you're coming onto a team that those are the strengths of a lot of the offensive linemen that are up there, is being able to run block over pass protect. And so I think it'll be fun. I do think we'll see a whole lot of Swift, but I do think they're going to mix Rojo in a decent amount this season. Travis Homer, to your point, I think maybe more of a special teams guy, but they're going to have to start making that decision because the receiving, obviously you have roster. No, you can't just keep everybody. So you have a limit of what you have to start deciding of who you're keeping. And when you already have, name the three with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, and then you start getting deeper into that receiving core. When you talk about a Velus Jones, is Velus going to be the guy you want to use on kick returns now with the new kick return rule? There's so many factors this offseason that now you have to start thinking about these little things of what you're going to do with the new kickoff and how many receivers you're keeping. And from there, that will trickle down to what they're going to do in the running back room, I think. But DeAndre Swift also adds to the receiving core because he every year he's played, he's also had 200, 300, 400 receiving yards. He's just that type of running back. So I think it'll be interesting. So that's another guy in the mix of your offense that can do multiple things, which I think Ryan Poles has done a fantastic job of finding.
Speaking of the receiving core, Taylor, I think that's kind of like the thing here. Like, of course, you got Duze now. Of course, you got Keenan Allen, Kmet. I think he's going to be primed for a I don't want to say a breakout year, because I think he kind of had it last year, but he's
Mhm.
probably going to add into that. And of course, DJ Moore, because of course, he's coming into a contract year as well. Who do you think will have the most receiving yards? Will Will Swift, like you said, Will Swift, kind of try to, they're going to put him in that receiving core, like you said, with the kickoff force. So what do you think is going to happen there in that, on those positions?
It's going to be the story to watch this year, like seeing which of those guys. And I know that it was the joke of like race to 1,000, who's going to hit there first. Actually had this conversation last night on another podcast. I think it'll be DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore is going to be the guy that's going to have 1,400 yards. And I think the rest is going to be kind of spread out. I think that Keenan Allen's fantastic, but he's also in year 12. So I do think they're not going to be putting so much on Keenan Allen, I don't believe. Shane Waldron loves his 2 tight end sets. I think we'll see a whole lot of that type of stuff, especially he plays off using his tight ends to open up play action and things like that. So I think we'll have a fun offense, which is exciting because Shane Waldron does some like quirky, fun, more up-tempo, fast stuff, which I feel like we did not see whatsoever with Luke Getsy or Matt Nagy. And so it'll be fun to kind of get this more fast-paced up-tempo offense, which I do think is also perfect for Caleb Williams. But in my eyes, I'm seeing a DJ Moore year, similar yardage to last year, but more touchdowns than last year. And then I see that the rest of those yards, which I'm guessing Caleb has about 3,500 yards. So the rest of those, let's say 2,000 yards, kind of spread out pretty evenly between Keenan and Rome and, Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett and a little bit of Swift in there, Valus, maybe somebody like that. And Keenan with the second amount, but I don't know if I see Keenan with 1,000, maybe right at 1,000. I just think DJ Moore is going to be still the star of this offense.
We're halfway home with Taylor Daw from 1010XL and the Makers Monsters podcast host right here on Sports Zone, Chicago's Second City Sports, the Friday Fun Edition. Sid Lakina here with you. Now, before we move on to your daily talk show in the rest of the NFL, I want to ask you about our secondary. Of course, Kevin Byers was picked up this offseason to kind of be that veteran guy in that secondary group. Of course, you got Jalen Johnson, who had fresh cash this offseason, Jaquan Brisker, and Kyle Gordon. But I want to ask you about Tyreek Stevenson. He struggled last year, of course, being a rookie, but I thought he came on throughout the second half of the year. What do you expect? What do you expect from him as he goes into year number 2 at the University of Miami?
Yeah, I'm expecting big things from Tyreek. I think that the last 6-7 games from Tyreek Stevenson, he played really, really well. And I think what we also have to keep in mind are all the injuries in the secondary last year. This kid was a rookie, kind of having to make up for a lot of things going on around him when it comes to injuries, when it comes to also Kyler Gordon in year 2 and Brisker in year 2. So they're trying to figure things out. But every single person in our secondary missed time at some point last season, and the majority of them missed 3 or more games. So the secondary didn't have a whole lot of time to where everybody was playing together consistently. And then I feel like we got a little glimpse of that later in the year. And when it was, that's when things really started to click. I loved what Tyreek was doing late in the season. I think that I was at the Cleveland Browns game where he made the interception on the goal line. That play was absolutely fantastic. It's not something that any corner is going to do, especially a rookie corner, being able to have that eye and get his hands on that ball and intercept it. I mean, even from where I was sitting, I thought it was a touchdown. And then when you go back and you watch the replay of it, even the announcers were like almost already calling touchdown, and Tyreek gets his hands on it. So I think we are going to see a massive step from Tyreek Stevenson. And I truly believe that the Bears cornerback room, when it comes to Jalen and Kyler and Tyreek, are going to be a top 5 in the NFL. I just think that the way they all have different strengths, and I think the way that Jalen is able to lead the league. The one thing we shouted for Jalen forever was get those interceptions. Like, you do everything else really, really good, but you need to get some of those interceptions, and he was able to do that last season. Jaquan Brisker, I think, had a little bit of a down year last year when we're talking about the safety room. But when you're talking about the young guys in general, I feel like each year we've seen them develop and get a little bit better, and that's what I'm expecting also from Kyler and Tyreek.
Let's talk about the rest of the scope of the NFL. Let's start in the division with the North. Of course, every team in that division has made moves. The Lions, they paid some their top 3 guys, and Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Packers, made some moves as well. So the Vikings, of course, drafting J.J. McCarthy, keeping Justin Jefferson, giving him a nice little bump in salary. So where do you think the Bears stack up to the rest of the teams in that division?
Yeah, it's a tough division. And when you talk to almost anybody, and even down here in Jacksonville, we talk to national guys all the time and ask them about who they think will be the most competitive divisions from top to bottom. And almost every single one has listed the NFC North. I think that they're expecting Jordan Love to, a lot of people say he's the guy. We're just going to have to accept it. He's the Packers' next quarterback, and unfortunately, they hit on another one. Not saying he's going to be the level of Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, but he's going to be a good quarterback, and we're going to have to kind of just deal with that. The good news is the Bears, I think, are in a place now organizationally where they can be more functional, so we don't have to be so scared of somebody else finding a good quarterback. The Lions, to me, have done everything right. Like, the Lions organization in the last 5 years have built this team so well to where they've been able to use free agency a little bit, but they've been able, to me, the biggest significant thing that's made them be successful is they've hit on so many draft picks. And that's when it comes with every position group. When it comes to the offensive line, they bulked up that offensive line, so Jared Goff doesn't have to worry about anything. They obviously, when you got guys like Amon Ra, you get guys like Sam Laporta, you're drafting and nailing almost every single draft pick in your first 3-4 rounds of the last few drafts, and that's really beneficial for what the Lions do. Jared Goff, I think he's not a top 5-6 quarterback to me, but he's been able to prove that he has a place in the NFL as a starting quarterback. And I think especially when you surround him and give him time to throw, it definitely makes a difference. The Vikings are interesting to me. I'm not the biggest JJ McCarthy fan. I wasn't a big Kirk fan, but I do think Kirk was better than JJ McCarthy. We will see. We get surprised by certain quarterbacks every year, the ones that kind of end up coming out and being the guy. I just think that at Michigan, he wasn't asked to do a whole lot. And I think he will be asked to do a whole lot in Minnesota, because we saw how many times Kirk had to throw the ball and the arm that Kirk had. And yes, you have guys like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, who are absolutely fantastic, two of the better weapons in the league. But you also need a quarterback who is going to be able to throw to them. I think Sam Darnold will be starting in the beginning of the year, and then we'll see JJ McCarthy maybe week 6-7 is kind of my prediction with that. So to me, at least we're looking at a team with the Vikings, who are also kind of figuring things out with the young quarterback and their roster surrounding that. We're seeing the Packers, and now everybody has a full year on Jordan Love. Nobody had film on Jordan Love before, so no one could figure, you weren't, these defensive coordinators weren't studying Jordan Love because they had one game really to look at, one start for them to look at. Now they have a whole season and 9 months to analyze Jordan Love and what he's good and what he's bad at. So we'll see if he can have another season. He wasn't good the first half of last season, but he turned up the heat in that second half. So we'll see which Jordan Love we get, or if it's somewhere in the middle, that first half or second half Jordan Love. And then, yeah, like I said, I think that when we're looking at this from top to bottom, it's going to be a very competitive division. The interesting thing and what may benefit the Bears is that we don't play any of our division games until week 11. So by that point, I do think that you get time for Caleb to really develop some connections with our wide receivers. You're hoping it's after a bye week when we play everyone, so everyone's a little bit rested up once we get on that stretch of all of our division games. But it's going to be a tough division. I think it's going to be a race at the end, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a three-way race between the Bears, Lions, and Packers.
You mentioned, Taylor, you down there in Jacksonville. Of course, I listen to you guys every day, but this question will focus in on the Jaguars. Of course, they were 9-3 last year before the injuries to Christian Kirk and Trevor Lawrence, which knocked them out of the playoffs. And, of course, you guys picked up Eric Armstead for the 49ers, which I think it was a big move, by the way. Two-part question here. I'm going to break protocol a little bit. Two-part question. One, what do you expect from Jacksonville, at least on the field and off the field? I'm not going to talk about the Bears situation, because if I had any hair, I would be pulling it out right now. What's the latest with the Jaguars stadium situation?
Yeah, so Jacksonville, number one, I think that they did the last season. They also were very stagnant in free agency. They almost had nobody. They spent no money. It was kind of they won a playoff game against the Chargers. They came back down 21 points. I think there was a little confidence there that they were good. They were good to go. Obviously, it kind of showed that this last offseason that they weren't quite there. Injuries did plague them down the end. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence was banged up the whole last month of the season. I mean, to the point where in the month of December, he maybe practiced 5 times. He was all sorts of banged up between a shoulder and an ankle and a concussion and everything else. So obviously, when you're not practicing with your team on a weekly basis, that starts to stray things a little bit. But then, yeah, Kirk went down, and Kirk's kind of his safety blanket. Kirk's been his guy, his go-to. It's like if DJ Moore went down last year, we would have seen a way even worse offense than what we saw in moments. But that is his guy. And then Calvin Ridley, unfortunately, just didn't pan out the way that a lot of people thought. There was a lot of really high expectations of Calvin Ridley, and he hit 1,000 yards, but he had a lot of issues learning the playbook. He was in the wrong spot a lot. He dropped a lot of passes. He ran a lot of wrong routes. And for some reason, he just couldn't really click and get that connection with Trevor. So that hurt down the stretch too. Zay Jones also was hurt and missed the majority of the season, which Zay Jones was a big red zone weapon here. So a lot of those things now we're looking at. They went and got Gabe Davis. They drafted Brian Thomas Jr. in the draft. So they've worked on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to trying to get weapons for Trevor. They also added the center from Buffalo. The other center, the Bears got Ryan Bates. The Jags got Mitch Morse. So the Bills lost both of their centers this offseason. But they went and got him to obviously add protection to Trevor. The center position was the worst in Chicago and is the worst in Jacksonville. I had to watch 2 teams just struggle with the center position last year. So they fixed that. They added Eric Armstead. So both sides of the trenches were messed up. They fixed those. Receiving weapons, fixed those. My biggest concern, and this is an underrated thing, is the corner position. They got rid of Darius Williams, and Darius Williams played really, really well last year, and he departed, and they used a draft pick, but a later draft pick on the corner. So we'll see how that pans out. But it's definitely a better roster than it was in December in Jacksonville. So we'll see how it ends up kind of playing out. And if Trevor can stay healthy, I think that's the big thing. He just got his contract. He got paid. It's time to prove it. And that's what a lot of the conversation here is. But when it comes to the stadium, we've been celebrating this week. The Jags, it's been in talks for a really long time about making this stadium better and downtown better in general. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Jacksonville, but Jacksonville downtown, the view is beautiful. There's a million bridges. They call it the city of bridges because there's so many bridges and they have lights on them, and you're on the river and it's gorgeous. But there's just not a whole lot downtown. Like, they've been trying to develop it for a while, and they just haven't really been able to get it to the level of some other big city downtowns. And so this brings so much opportunity because they're not only building the stadium, but they're building around the surrounding area, which is, I know Chicago talks about too, of adding the bars and the restaurants and the tailgating and the nightlife also around the stadium and making it a whole entertainment piece rather than just a stadium. And now the Jacksonville Jaguars finally get that. And it's their 30th season this year. They're celebrating year 30 in the NFL. And now signing Trevor Lawrence and then also getting a new stadium. I feel like it's a good time down here.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I've heard nothing but great things in that area of Jacksonville. So that new stadium will definitely boost up tourism, even if you're not a Jaguars fan. Let's talk about the rest of the NFL real quick, Taylor. Outside of the NFC North and outside the AFC South, what division fascinates you this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to say for us, the AFC North, it's just good. I mean, when you look at the Bengals, you're Joe Burrow coming back from an injury. You have the Baltimore Ravens, who already you saw Lamar Jackson have a career year last year. And then you have this Pittsburgh Steelers team who always finds a way to get 9-10 wins and always finds a way to be in the talk at the end of the year. And now you have a quarterback competition with the Bears' former quarterback and Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Hearing all sorts of things, out of camp about which one. We've heard, Justin had a terrible practice and this is going to be bad. But then we've heard that Justin fits this offense of what it looks like fits this offense better than Russell Wilson. So we'll see. I think that the storylines there are interesting, but also I just think the North in general, and that's not even mentioning the Browns. The Browns have one of the best defenses in the league, and is Deshaun Watson going to ever find the Deshaun Watson he was before? Because I feel like he doesn't even have to be the original Deshaun Watson to make that team competitive because they have such a good defense and because they have so many weapons. He just has to be decent. And so I think that whole division is going to be very, very interesting to watch. And I think kind of on the opposite spectrum when it comes to the AFC South, or I'm trying to think, NFC South, the Bucks, is Baker Mayfield going to have the type of season he did last year? When you look at their roster, they also have a really good roster. They've invested in some young guys when it comes to their defense, and is that's going to continue? You have a guy like Mike Evans, who's been one of the most consistent, productive wide receivers in the league for a while now. And then you have the Atlanta Falcons, who did a weird game day thing that gave us Rome Odunze. And they drafted Michael Penix after going to get Kirk Cousins, but their roster, again, really, really good on paper. And then you go over to the Panthers, and that's obviously something that we watch because of the trade, and we get another Panthers pick this season. So that kind of adds some interesting aspect. But is Bryce Young going to take a step up? Is it a complete bust, or was it because he didn't have a line? And then the Saints, I think watching the Saints be just so good for so long and watching them now just try to figure everything out is interesting. They spent a decent amount of money on Derek Carr, and it didn't really pan out last season, but do things start to click for them a little bit? So those to me are the two divisions when it comes to opposite ends, like one that's really, really good and one that I don't feel like anybody's great, but could be interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Final moment or two with Taylor Dahl right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Celia Keenan here with you on our hashtag Friday Fun edition. Taylor, last question for me from now. The last time we had you on, you, Miss Lauren Brooks, and with all due respect, I'll call her in good terms, of course, Miss Mama Mia O'Brien. You guys are doing your radio show every Tuesday. Now is daily from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, noon to 2 p.m. Eastern on Jacksonville's 1010XL. I followed you guys. I still follow you guys. I thought it was very creative how you guys introduce yourselves as a daily radio talk show. I knew how it was done. Tell everybody out there in our audience, how did you guys come about becoming a daily talk show, the first all-female daily sports talk show of its kind?
Yeah, it's actually, if you go back, the show's on year 9, but yes, it was just one time a week. It was a Tuesday night, 6 to 8 p.m. show. It was actually brought on by Shad Khan here in Jacksonville, who owns the Jaguars. He was the one who kind of brought up this idea at first. And then our GM here at 1010XL, Steve Griffin, made it reality. And 9 years ago, I was not here. I have been here close to that, but not quite 9 years. And so in the beginning, it was Lauren Brooks, who is still currently on it. She's the only original member still left and going strong. And then it was Jessica Blaylock, Jessica Blaylock is now the team reporter for the Florida Panthers, now Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. And she's also the team reporter for the Miami Marlins. So she's went on to do some really, really great things. And then Donna Murphy also, she was an original member of the show. She's no longer in sports media, but she was a big part of really what kicked off the Helmets and Heels in the first place. So through time, it grew. Obviously, the fan base of Helmets and Heels grew. The acceptance of women in sports started to grow. As that started happening, more and more people started kind of talking to our GM and talking to some of the guys that work here with the sales and all of that. And I was like, we really like Helmets and Heels, but we only get to listen to them one night a week at 6 p.m. And can we ever hear some more Helmets and Heels? So we dabbled the last few years where we'd fill in, let's say one of the other shows were on vacation. We would sit in for them that week and take whatever time slot they were in. And it always got really positive feedback. So from there, my boss was like, there's clearly an interest in this. Let's see how much of an interest. So we started doing that a little more, where one week we did a full week every day, 6 to 8 show. Had a ton of good feedback. Everyone was really excited about it. So he went to one of our consultants that works nationwide, works with a ton of radio stations around the country and kind of works with them to build a lot of social media aspects, but just to modernize certain things. And he went to him and was like, hey, what do you think of this idea? And Jason immediately was like, that's fantastic. I say, let's do it. The talks in the beginning of time and when was more of a question. Originally, it was going to be a 6 to 8 p.m., but daily. One of the girls, Lauren, just didn't quite want to do that. She was like, getting off at 8 p.m. every night sucks. I don't really want to have to do that every single night. And then it was going to be a 2 to 4. And then it didn't really work because a lot of the Jaguars availability for press conferences and stuff during the season are during that time slot. And Mia's our team reporter. So she's like, well, I'll miss all of the press conferences and stuff. So it ended up getting split up to 12 to 2. And so that's where we are now. Yeah, daily 12 to 2. We're the first all women's daily midday sports talk show in the nation. So it's really fun to be being kind of the catalyst of this, but also seeing the reaction, because I was a little nervous at first. I was like, people are going to be like, oh, women talking sports, roll their eyes. Why is this a thing every single day? But honestly, we've gotten so much good reaction from listeners, from longtime listeners, from new listeners, because some people never really got to listen at 6 p.m. And so they were always like, I'd hear about Helmets and Heels, but never really had the opportunity to really listen. And you guys are fantastic. So it's been really fun to kind of get that feedback from people. And then also just being able to talk every day for 2 hours, talk football. Obviously, that's an idea. It's a dream to be able to do that. So yeah, it's been really fun to watch the Helmets and Heels grow into something just bigger and better. And hopefully it's not the end of it.
Yeah, let's hope not, because I listen to it too from time to time. You guys are awesome, so, to tell everybody, we said what's up, and hopefully we can get your fellow co-hosts on too at some point. Now, again, Taylor, thank you so much for joining us today. Where people can find Helmets and Heels on 1010XL and your great work of making boxes on Windy City Gridiron.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for having me.
Where people can find you on social media and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so at Taydol1010XL is my Twitter. That's my main sports world. I'm always on there. So feel free to interact, say hey. I love chatting with people, getting to know people. If you're a Bears fan, obviously probably listening to this, fantastic. Because I work in Jacksonville, my Twitter is a little split, so you'll see some Jag stuff on there, but I promise you'll have plenty of Bears content on all my social media.
All right.
You don't need me to tell you this.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, you don't need me to tell you this, Taylor, but any Packers fan that has any smoke, boot them.
Oh, goodness. Oh, my gosh. On that note.
I have the, because you can mute words on Twitter.
Yes,
I literally have Packers muted on my Twitter because I was getting so annoyed last season when Jordan Love was playing well. And so I was like, well, if I just mute the word Packers, those won't show up on my timeline. So I never have to see any Packers stuff unless it's like someone tags me in something.
See the power of the Twitter X. Thank you so much, Taylor. Continued success, and we'll definitely have you back on later this season.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
All right, that was Taylor Dahl, Miss Taylor Dahl from Helmets and Heels on 1010XL on in Jacksonville. You can catch it on. I want to make sure I get this right on 1010XL 92.5 on the 1010XL.com. You can also watch it on YouTube as well as your wherever you get your podcast. So it's all right there.
Yes. All right, Lakina, take us out.
You can follow Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kiosk again, the IG.
You can follow yours, Shirley Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Download the Sports Zone Chicago app. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And follow War Media at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more time, as Lakina would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can catch Sports in Chicago anytime, anywhere on the Roku TV app. So whatever you get your apps, whatever device you have Roku TV, just go to Roku, type in Sports in Chicago. You can catch replays of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up Cousin, a whole lot more. Catch Sports in Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV.
And we will provide.
And of course, I want to give a quick shout out to the Tennessee men's baseball team. They won the Men's College World Series in Omaha earlier this week. They're the fourth team, I should say, to win both the SEC regular and tournament title. And they finally have broken through after 4 trips. They finally get their first national title in baseball.
Yep. Congratulations to the Vols.
All right, so enjoy the baseball and the Olympic trials. Of course, the Euros, if you're a soccer fan. The knockout round start, I believe, tomorrow. So you can catch that as well. For Sid. Also, too, we want to thank Taylor Dahl from 1010XL from Helps to Heals for joining us as well. So enjoy all the sports this weekend. It was kind of a little bit of a dead time. So, if you're into it, baseball, WNBA, Euros, Olympic trials, all that's right there. For Sid, I'm Lakia. This is Miss Second Sports on Sports of Chicago, and we'll see you guys Monday.
Holla!